Hello all, and welcome to the second review of the night. I'm going to dub this second review of the night, I'm good to review a second beer because the other one was so light. Night. That rhymed. So, what is the second beer we will be reviewing tonight? Well, my dad knows of my great love for the Anchor Brewing Company, even as I've disagreed with almost all of their major business decisions since Fritz Maytag left the company. I don't think he actually left the company. I think it's more like he retired. I mean, Anchor Brewing at this point is basically, Fritz Maytag's legacy. He's not leaving it, you know. There's no, even though he didn't found the brewery, he bought it, but he was one of the ones who went and started the craft beer revolution. And I've been dismayed by most of the decisions made since he's left. But I've ranted about that several times already, so I'm just going to go straight to this. Now, this is a Tropical Hazy IPA, which is something that they're brewing now instead of many of the classic mainstays of their line, which were brewed for decades. I'm going to be as impartial as I can about this beer as possible. So, 6.5 ABV. Let's go and read the back of the can, shall we? Crack open some tropical vibes. This is your taste buds all-inclusive ticket to a tropical getaway. Fresh aromas of mango and pineapple give way to a refreshing, juicy, and crushable flavor. Pack your bags, and this time, don't forget to send a postcard. Every brewery does a hazy IPA now. I've lost that battle. I make my peace with the fact that within 10 years, there'll probably be some other crazy beer craze that dominates the shelves. I'm hoping it's something of a style that I love. I don't believe wild ales are ever going to go and dominate beer shelves. Not in my lifetime. Not in anyone's lifetime. But that's another rant for another time. I'm animated when I get to these second reviews, Yeah. So I'm not sure why they said it's crushable. I mean, the 6.5, that's not crushable in my opinion. Two 6.5ers is a good night, I would say. But let's go and see what people at Anchor have put out, shall we? So, this is one of the clearest hazies I've ever seen. This is like the first hazy beer where I can see through it. It's still opalescent, so there's still suspension there. But, I mean, I can see my hand through it. Usually it's so cloudy, it's like grapefruit juice, which kind of bides well, in my opinion. Maybe there's something different about this. Quick, thin, frothy, dissipating white head, off-white head. Okay, wow. Yeah, that's different. So you smell like kind of citrusy hops, but that's on top of like the really typical Anchor malt base, which has a strong, grainy kind of cereal aspect to it. Um, Almost, I wouldn't say caramelized, but like a baked kind of aspect to it. So I'm kind of surprised that they use their signature malts for this tropical ale. So bready malts, bready, grainy bready malts. Hop presence muted and more citrusy than tropical. But the head's mostly dissipated, so I'm not getting too much from it. Onto the palate, shall we? Despite the predominance in the nose, the malts are not as predominant in the mouth. Dry citrus zest in the mid. And not overly bitter in the finish. Package 042821. So, April 28th, 21. That's probably why, again, a lot of the brighter aspects of the hopping are not there. Probably also why the malts show up so strongly in the initial nosing. I'm going to hammer this again and again. Get your IPAs, especially your hazy IPAs, as fresh as possible. What makes them good, if you like the style, are these incredibly volatile alpha oil acids that don't, sorry, alpha oils that don't really stick around all that too long, you know. So what you're left with is sort of moderate citrus bitterness, not overly tannic, some sweetness, aspects of juiciness there, but no big boominess, you know, none of those high passion fruit notes. Even as I get tired of them in a lot of beers, you know, I do find them enjoyable. I'm just being kind of a pretentious beer nerd right now, but you know what? That's life. So I would love to try this fresh on tap. Mostly because I would like to go and see what those really volatile hop notes on top of the typical Anchor malt bill, you know, the malts that they use, would be like. I think it would be something really interesting. At the same time, too, the San Francisco one, that was kind of meh in my book. But again, also, that wasn't the freshest. It was a bit more fresh than this, which is about 8 months, no, yeah, 7 to 8 months old. Really want your IPAs to be within 3 to 4 months of packaging max. And I would like to go and say this with a caveat. I am not saying like some word of God. This is something that is debatable, and if you feel like debating me on it, you're welcome to. This is just my own personal perception of taste, as with all things. I don't like I don't like reviews that act like there's some sort of objective statement on something. Taste is subjective. And the world would be a much better place if people sort of operated on that principle that tastes are subjective. And that is not something to go and get really worked up over. This is beer, not the cure for cancer. Now you're probably seeing why I don't go and review, I kind of don't review more than one all that often. I digress quite a bit, let me tell you. Yeah. I don't really have much else to say about this beer. It seems like a lot of the more interesting notes have dissipated. You're kind of left with a big question mark here of what this beer would be like fresh out of the brew kettle. And I'm actually curious to go and see what it would be like on draft, with all those really volatile notes preserved. It would be really interesting to see, because Anchor has such a classic malt bill in many respects. Or I should say malt bills, because I know they're using a range of grains, as their malts. But at the same time, there's something very distinctive that stands out there, a graininess, a cereal note that really stands out. It makes it still feel like, one of the great founding fathers of the craft beer movement. So, Anchor Brewing, Tropical Hazy IPA. Give it a shot if that's your jam. Try to have it as fresh as possible. And that is your beer review for the week, folks. Doing hand movements like review bra. Those of you who know will know. Cheers, folks.